Yes! Hello, my beautiful friends. It is an amazing day and welcome back and happy Saturday. I hope your weekend is off to an incredible start and you're feeling jazzed and energized as the final days until the election emerge upon us. And I'm excited that you're here. We've got some amazing updates today and a bunch of them. So let me give you a quick preview on what we've got coming up. Washington, we've got National Guard being deployed. We'll talk about Governor Jay Inslee, who has just released this along with a letter explaining exactly what he's doing. We'll go through it all and see what's happening there. We're going to go West Coast to East Coast today. We got a bunch of states. So we've got Washington, Colorado, then we're going to jump over courtesy of Heidi Ganal. She is Politico over there in Colorado. And she gave us some updates on the back and forth between the Trump campaign and Jena Griswold. Jena Griswold, of course, Crazy Eyes Griswold, leaky Jena Griswold, whatever you want to say. She leaked a bunch of passwords online and then deployed an operation to go update the BIOS passwords. Don't know if she fixed any problems or determined what happened ultimately, but that is something that she did in about 12 hours. Within 24 hours, she passed a rule for herself and then deployed a bunch of air assets to change BIOS passwords and interfere with a bunch of machines that were already certified and validated. And so there's been a back and forth between the Trump campaign and her office. And so you can see she and her office, the Secretary of State, sent a letter back over to Trump, and the Colorado Republicans will see what Jena said, and then we'll see what Trump's people said back in response, because they responded via email and they said, Jena, no. So the next step, we speculate, will be some formal lawsuits. We already saw that the Libertarian Party in Colorado has filed their lawsuit, and that was a good one that we read through yesterday. So more updates there. We also have this gentleman who is sending in a demand for an audit saying, look, if you told us that Tina Peters needed to go to prison for years and you passed a Tina Peters password law, you just violated the law, Jena. You're a class 5 felon now. And so you should resign. There should be an audit. Tina Peters should be freed immediately. And we'll go through the story. So some very good updates out of Colorado. Wild that that election is even happening right now when the machines have all been tampered with by Jena. So that's there. Then we'll turn our attention to Minnesota. There was a win here flagged by a friend of ours over on Locals saying that in Minnesota, the Supreme Court is siding with the GOP and now allowing the appointment of fair judges when there are disputes over ballots, which is good news. So the Minnesota Supreme Court came out, issued this ruling. It's not too long. It's about a 7-pager. So we'll run through that today and see what's happening in Minnesota. But this is obviously good. We've seen this before in other places like Chicago, Detroit, those areas where they'll hire a bunch of ballot poll workers and adjudicators, and they'll all be like little Liz Cheneys. And it's all very strange how they pick from that list. It's like a Liz Cheney list of election workers, and they just draw from them. So that's in Minnesota. Then Michigan, lots of good stuff here too, because we've got Stephanie Lambert. Remember her? We've talked about her before. She's being prosecuted in Michigan and is facing felony charges there for 2020 allegations, which of course are nonsense because this whole state is ridiculously corrupted by the likes of Big Gretch Rona and Jocelyn Benson, the Department Secretary of Fraud. And then we also have Dana Nessel, who's also the Attorney General there. And so we have Stephanie Lambert, who's been a victim of political prosecutions there, not laying down at all. In fact, is leading a lawsuit against Jocelyn Benson. Filed this just yesterday in the Fifth Circuit in Michigan. So some good stuff saying that Jocelyn Benson is terrible. We'll read through it and see what she's asking for. So some good stuff there out of Michigan. And then we'll turn our attention to Pennsylvania, still a big state. Although a lot of people are paying attention now to Wisconsin and saying Wisconsin might be a keystone. In other words, if Trump wins the swing states of Nevada, Arizona, let's say Georgia, North Carolina, which he's looking pretty good in, then Kamala needs to win Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. And if she doesn't win both of those, then she's done. So she can, in other words, win Pennsylvania and lose Wisconsin and still lose the presidency, which was good. But in Pennsylvania, the big state, there's a 50-50 split here because what happened is the U.S. Supreme Court came back down and left in a current rule, which is bad for the GOP because it changes Pennsylvania law. But the state Supreme Court, they came back down and on a different issue found in favor of Republicans. So we've got two updates there, one from the United States Supreme Court, one from the Pennsylvania State Supreme Court. Republicans split 50-50 on those. We'll go through it. Then we see this from the Kamala campaign. And wow, this was an interesting one over on CNN because they're saying Kamala is running two different ad campaigns in two different states. If you're in Michigan and you're watching a Kamala ad, she's talking about Gaza and ending the war and stopping the bloodshed and all the things. But if you're in Pennsylvania, you hear a different tone. Because you might be a Jewish person there. So what you hear is something different. You hear something about Israel has a right to defend itself and will support them in those efforts. It's two totally different messages that are opposed to each other on the battlefield. So very curious. We'll see what CNN said. They did a full 3 minutes on this and pretty interesting. We'll go through it, see what they said. Then we'll turn our attention over to Colorado and we're going to shout out, man, Lily Tang Williams. Absolutely heroic woman from New Hampshire, Republican nominee for Congress, survivor of Mao's Cultural Revolution, wants to live free or die, is an entrepreneur and a professional speaker and a wife and a mother, by the way. Incredible woman. She was on last night during a debate in New Hampshire, and she was going up against this woman, Maggie Goodlander. Maggie Goodlander. All right. And who is she? Oh, she is the wife of Jake Sullivan, the guy who went to Oxford, who created the fake Trump collusion hoax with Hillary Clinton when he was her campaign advisor. Then he got promoted to national security advisor under Joe. Well, his wife apparently moved to New Hampshire, and she's like, I'm going to run and give more money to Ukraine. Well, she was on the debate stage, and Lily just laced into her, man, and it was a lot of fun. So we'll go through that, and we'll see what that sounded like, because, man, she called out Jake Sullivan, too. He's not going to be happy about that. But good for her for doing it. All right, so we've got a bunch of good stuff to get to, and then we'll jump into your comments and see what you say about all of this and more. Of course, we want to remind you about our friends at 2A Republic. I know many of you, like me here, we believe the Second Amendment is black and white, very simple. 2A Republic says the same. That's why their designs reflect that belief. It's pretty clear. Shall not be infringed. Very clear statement. It's not a loose suggestion. And so 2A Republic, they're based in AZ. They are making shirts made in the USA. And if you believe in the Second Amendment, if you think it's black and white like we do, go grab a shirt, grab some gear. Holidays are right around the corner. These are great gifts. They come in a unique box. It's awesome. And whoever you get it for, who's a Second Amendment fan, they'll love it. So check it out. 2A Republic. The links are in the description below. Proceeds go to this channel, and anything that comes from a Trump shirt, all the profits from Trump shirts are going to Elon's PAC so we can contribute back to the cause. And so check these out. Great shirts. 2A Republic. Links are in the description below. And holidays are coming up, my friends. Grab those. All right. So thanks for supporting us and getting some good gear. And I know these guys, they're awesome dudes. They're on our team, and they're helping us with some other stuff around the house here, so around the show here. So thanks for that. All right, now, let's get into it, my friends. We've got business to attend to. The National Guard out in Washington, courtesy of Governor Jay Inslee. And here is the press release that he dropped over on the official Governor Washington website. Says Inslee activates some Washington National Guard to support public safety activities. And we're always curious about this because we know other people like Jena Griswold, they deputize people from their government and then their deputies go and do their bidding. What was Jena Griswold's bidding in Colorado? Well, to remove Trump from the ballot and so on and so forth. So here what they say is this is a purely precautionary measure taken in response to Department of Homeland Security warnings. What about Russia? Regarding threats to election infrastructure and other recent activities that have occurred in Washington. Like in Portland, Oregon, where they were burning ballot drop boxes with free Gaza, allegedly incendiary devices. Now, the Guard will be on standby for 4 days, beginning Monday, November 4th, and ending just after midnight on Thursday. Governor activated National Guard members. They're on standby just in the event that they're asked to support local law enforcement. Kind of reminds me, it's not a bad idea if there's going to be problems, right, to just be extra cautious. Like Trump tried to do that on January 6th, and they didn't allow him to do that. The governor has given the adjutant general the authority to determine how many members of the Guard will be activated. All right, let's see what the official letter says from Washington. They say, all right, dear Major General Welsh, this is from the governor to the Washington Military Department. He says, okay, hey, Major General, based upon general and specific information and concerns regarding the potential for violence and other unlawful activity related to the 2024 general election, I want to ensure we're fully prepared to respond to any additional civil unrest of the type described in the rules within Washington state, leading up to and potentially extending beyond November 5th and the date of the general election. And Washington's a pretty blue state. Like, why would there be riots and protests there? Would it be because Trump's going to win and they're going to be very upset about it there? The U.S. Department of Homeland Security has warned that threats to election infrastructure during the 2024 election cycle remains high. The southwest region of Washington state has already experienced its specific instances of election-related unrest. On October 28th, an incendiary device was set up in a drop box called Vancouver, Washington, damaging or destroying hundreds of ballots, and a similar device that we talked about here hit Portland, Oregon. Now, in response to the situation described above and the potential for further violence and illegal activity, I am directing the Washington National Guard to prepare to provide critical public safety support by activating the necessary Washington National Guard personnel in a standby status. And just to zoom out on this, okay, it's interesting how this is framed by the people who do it, okay? There's not going to be any media hyperventilating about this. They'll just say, well, yeah, there could be attacks by right-wingers. But remember back in the last election in 2020, when Trump said we should send 10,000 National Guard to Washington, D.C., executed a letter, and we got a letter back from Muriel Bowser that said, we don't want your troops, because they said that Trump was going to take over the Capitol if he was allowed to stand up National Guard there. We heard it. They're like, no. We don't want National Guard around the Capitol when the election is right around the corner. Can't have that. So she rejected it, and then they caused a riot to happen by having cops on the balconies shooting at peaceful protesters' faces, causing crowds to go wild, obviously, because they're getting shot in the face. To provide critical public safety support. That's all Trump wanted to do. And they said he was going to take over everything. So is this, by their standards, them taking over the elections? In this role, the National Guard will support local law enforcement. And first of all, I don't know what the National Guard is going to do. Tim Walz said they're all just like 19-year-old cooks. What are they going to do? Now, I happen to think they're very competent people because we appreciate the men and women who serve our country. But Tim Walz thinks they're just cooks. We'll support local law enforcement and Washington State Patrol as needed. Our state depends on these skilled individuals for critical support to protect the public health and safety and welfare, to include support necessary to protect vital infrastructure related to carrying out free and fair elections. All right. To respond to any unrest related to the general election. So there's kind of two issues that are commingled here. One is election infrastructure, The other is unrest. What are the threats to the infrastructure? We'd like to really get clear on those. And what is the unrest? Because unrest is not necessary. I mean, unrest can impact election infrastructure, sure. There's riots outside a polling place, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the election infrastructure will be problematic if there is unrest. So what other problems are there in the election that DHS is communicating? Is it about the incendiary devices from the Free Gaza crowd, as alleged? Now, preparation to respond to civil unrest of the type already experienced will also require state-level coordination and the additional support functions within our systems. Under the laws, the governor says, I am authorized to order the Washington National Guard or any part thereof into active service as I deem proper, and I'm doing that now. It's required for the protection of public health, safety, and the welfare for the people they deserve. So therefore, I, Jay Inslee, governor of the state of Washington, and in response to the above request, believing this action is necessary, hereby deem appropriate that the military support the public safety efforts related to the election and become activated. This order expires on November 8th, 2024. Very truly yours, the governor. So Jay Inslee, the governor, is now deploying the National Guard over there, and we'll see what they do. Last time Trump made this suggestion, they said he was going to take over the country. So we'll see if Inslee is going to be taking over the elections. We now know that Jena Griswold and the governor of Colorado, just a stone's throw away from Washington, have actively deployed an operation to update hundreds of machines overnight without providing any notice or opportunity for the Republican Party to file a lawsuit, to get an injunction, to do anything, or even really have a say in it. They just did it. So we'll see if this is along the same vein, or it's just a smart security thing to make sure that the liberal Antifa rioters who are going to go bananas after Trump wins don't torch their own cities down again like they did the last time Trump won. All right, so let's turn our attention now to Colorado, because there's some good stuff happening here too. You can see in Colorado, we've got updates. And let's start here. Jena Griswold continues to be under fire for her leaky password problem. She sent a letter over to Trump's attorneys, and Trump's attorneys responded to this. We'll get the latest updates. This letter came courtesy of Heidi Ganal over on X. She's over there in Colorado, was a GOP nominee for the governor there, and she got access to these letters. We've also got an update from a representative out of Colorado. His name is Representative Scott Bottoms. He's the House District 15 candidate and representative, and he's demanding an audit now, since Leaky Griswold has then created a problem by leaking passwords all over the internet and then deploying her own rules. She wrote her own rule for herself that gives her the power to go fix the BIOS passwords, even though there's a certification process and a validation process that you would go through before the machines are put into service. So then she goes, after they're sealed, signed, and delivered and in service, then she goes and cracks the seal, makes some changes, and puts it right back into action without going through the same validation or verification process. She just says, oh, I just have to write a rule for myself, which she did, and then deployed the rule instantly, like within 12 hours, and said that the governor gave her air assets to fly around to update all the machines. Okay, so Trump's people were very unhappy about this, and they sent a letter to her. Then she responded back on Thursday, October 31st, and then Trump's people responded back the following day. So let's get caught up on the back and forth between Crazy Eyes Griswold and the Trump team, because what this is papering the file so that they can file a lawsuit saying that they tried to remedy this amicably with Jena and the government, but they're not working to rectify it. And so we've got two people here. Jena Griswold, my understanding is she wants to run for governor. It's going to be hard for her to do this after this disaster. But here you can see this letter is from Jena's office, and it says, okay, it's responding to the first letter from Trump, which we'll fast forward through. She says, okay, all right, dear Trump people and Colorado Republicans, this is not from Jena because The only thing she can do is just go on the media. This is from her Deputy Secretary of State. Jena wants to keep her hands as far away from this as possible. So she's communicating through her deputy because she's too cowardly to act on her own. But here is what this guy says on behalf of Jena. He says, all right, listen, everybody, Republicans and Trump people. The Colorado Department of State is in receipt of a letter from the Colorado Republicans, as well as a letter from Donald Trump for president dated October 30th. Now, this correspondence here provides a response to both letters and an update on the measures taken by the department. It says at the end of last week, the department became aware of the publication of certain voting system component passwords in a spreadsheet posted on our website. Oops. Upon becoming aware of this issue, the department began an investigation and consulted with federal cybersecurity partners who are corrupt hacks over from CISA to determine whether the publication posed a risk to the security of our election. It was quickly determined that the spreadsheet presented no immediate threat to the security of Colorado's voting systems or the 2024 general election. Yeah, because they don't want to disqualify Colorado or have any problems there. Like, they need Colorado's electoral votes. Those are solid blue votes, man, especially once they have all the BIOS systems updated to Democrat 1.0 systems after Jena and her people parachuted out of helicopters to update them with their thumb drives. So now CISA comes in, and the federal partners, who are the most corrupt people ever, who censor all of us, and who said that there were no concerns after 2020. It's just a propaganda arm, essentially, who is faking themselves to be security experts, who just do the bidding of the Democrats and put pressure on the social media companies. So they come in, they say, oh, no, it's perfect. No, Colorado's solid blue. You know what? If this happened in Texas, for example, you think they'd be so quick to say there's no problems at all? They'd love to disqualify Texas's votes. But how can you have elections on machines that are not authenticated or validated? Because Jena Griswold and her goons were in there with screwdrivers, smashing the BIOS passwords to bits. The department determined that because Colorado's voting systems are protected by layers of security and redundancies, no single error can compromise the integrity of the systems. Which is curious, because after passwords were exposed in Mesa County in the Tina Peters case, they had to buy new machines. Remember that? New machines. No single error can compromise the integrity of the system. All right. Well, that's great. But do you know that there were no other security leaks? They say, well, there's no evidence that it happened, but the absence of evidence does not prove that it didn't happen. You just don't have evidence that it did, but you're not looking for it because their incentive is to just, well, no, we updated the passwords. Just updated the passwords. Now, these measures are enshrined in statute and the department's election rules, including multiple layers of password protection, tightly controlled physical access to voting equipment. And by the way, we're going to talk about, do I have this queued up for today? Well, we'll talk about it because we've got an Arizona problem as well. In Arizona, remember we had the individual who had the key fobs stolen. Apparently he's showing up in connection to the ballot harvesting company that was found to be creating fake registrations in Pennsylvania that is operating in Arizona. So there were people who were part of Democratic ballot operations, allegedly, who were also in possession of key fobs illegally, who've been charged for crimes in Arizona. So tightly controlled physical access. There may have been operatives in Arizona with access to key fobs who were accessing places legitimately. So it doesn't matter if it's tightly controlled. You might have people who have permission to be there who are doing the bad things, who have access to all of those things. 24-hour daily video surveillance. Great. If they have permission to be there, it's like you're not monitoring somebody who's coming in with ski masks on and like a blowtorch welder to hack the safe, among other measures. So somebody who has access, who just walks right in there, who found the passwords online, who found the other passwords on Jena's computer on her monitor. She has a sticky note on there. Jena, it says passwords to election systems. She just has like a couple sticky notes, you know, some people are. To reiterate, the security of our voting systems is not endangered, so you guys are great. The department is nonetheless aware of the unprecedented attention and scrutiny on every aspect of this. And we've taken action, and we're continuing to take immediate action to secure this, to reassure our voters. Now, in conjunction with the governor's office, the department is mobilizing background-checked state cybersecurity experts. Okay. Along with department staff to travel to every county in Colorado to update voting systems passwords out of an abundance of caution. And you can see it's 31 counties. Based on the department's initial investigation, the password updates currently being performed pertain to 31 counties where the exposed passwords involving equipment are still being used. Wow. So she's admitting that they're going to go touch all the machines that have already been validated, and they're going to update the root software passwords. They're performing additional security checks to confirm that no machines have been altered. How can they do that? If somebody has root access, then can't they alter the machines and delete the logs to show proof of that? Are they going to do a full image analysis? Like, are they going to image everything that's on there and then compare it? Or are they just going to like run a quick virus scan or something? What's the length of the security check? Because they told us the other machines, when they were tampered with, they had to be taken out of service. They made Mesa County buy new machines. Remember that? The county clerk and recorders are all aware of this effort, and they're cooperating with the department to ensure rapid completion of this with minimal interruption to regular election processes. This work will be completed as soon as possible. We appreciate your attention to this matter. Signed by Christopher Beall, Jena Griswold's little B, Christopher Little B, who is Jenna's little B, writing letters for her because she can't talk about it because she's in hot water. So Trump's defense, Gessler Blue Law, sent this back over to the Honorable Jena Griswold. November 1st, in direct response, they say, okay, hey, dear Secretary Griswold, thank you for your letter responding to our concern that your office is terrible, that you guys released BIOS passwords throughout the state. But your response does not, however, match your office's consistent statements over the past several years. You said BIOS passwords are a critical security component. You said this. And your unwillingness to engage in a new trusted build process erodes voter confidence in our system. And just think about this on your own computer. If somebody had access to your system, to your password, and they may or may not have been in your machine for months because the major password was online and other passwords, right? She said it's like 2 passwords to turn your key. Okay, well, if your security on this set of passwords was like a joke, what was the security like on the second key, on the second set of passwords? Was it also a joke? Was it on your Facebook page, except not on your secretary's office website? Where was it? Was it on a sticky note? Could somebody just walk through the office and just take a picture of it and then have access to everything they need, plus be a credentialed person? Like in Arizona, the guy who had that key fob, who took off with that key fob, maybe they go right in. Then the only other line of defense is what? Security cameras? They're supposed to be there. So no, it's not raising a red flag at all. And if somebody did do all of this, if there was questionable access, don't you think that they would cover that up to the greatest extent possible? They covered it up already. She didn't tell us about it until the Republican Party figured it out and blasted everybody about it. The cover-up was well underway. If the Republican Party didn't put it on blast, they wouldn't have told anybody about it, obviously. Then they just go in and update the password. So imagine someone has access. They have your password. They have access to your whole system, your emails, your Drive files, all your social media, and they're just maybe rooting around in there for a month. You have no idea. No idea. And then you say, hey, man, I got to figure out, like, what's the extent of this breach? Do they have access to my bank? Do they have access to my journals? Do they have access to my, private files or my photographs? Do they have this? What do they have? They have everything? I don't know. So I got to go find a security person to help me with this. Hey, man, what's the extent of my damage? Do they have my whole life in their hands right now? And he just says, wow, that sounds like a pretty big problem. Here's my recommendation. You should just change your password. Okay? Yeah, well, that's like a good first step. Is there anything else I should do? Just change your password and then just use your machine again. What? Yeah, you're good. Just like log in to all your bank accounts again and just do whatever you need to do because your password's changed, so you're good. Obviously, that's insane. You would never do that. You'd say, what? Just change my one password and I'm good? It's ridiculous. The whole system is compromised at that point in time. So now you have to validate everything and change everything and do a total review. And if that machine is being used in critical services that are going to implicate other people's rights, not just your rights, maybe you find, okay, fine, I don't care if they got access to that crap, but it's other people's rights. It's other people's right to vote in a criminal case. It's other people going to prison when the DUI machine doesn't work. When the voting machine doesn't work, your vote doesn't matter. And shouldn't our voting machines be reliable at least to beyond a reasonable doubt, just like we expect our DUI machines to be? If our DUI machines have a tiny problem with them, we pull them out of service, do a root cause analysis. Defense attorneys go bananas and try to dismiss everything that has ever been in the room with the DUI machine because it's not reliable. And there's a lot of scientific literature and validation. Okay, it's clear. They know this. They prosecute crimes in their government. So they know how validation works for machines. This is not new stuff for them. Now, it's probably new for Jena, but you would never put that machine back into service. Just pull a DUI machine out of service, just patch it up and shove it back in there and process a bunch of blood samples through it and say those results are reliable. Never. So why are our election machines less reliable than our criminal machines? Shouldn't they both be beyond a reasonable doubt? Absolutely. So Trump's defense continues. They say, we provided you a practical solution to solve these problems, and we renew our request for the reasons below. First, your response directly contradicts the importance that your office has consistently placed on BIOS passwords over the past several years. In fact, on August 1st, 2024 of this year, just a few months ago, Jesse Romero, your voting systems manager, testified before the District Court of Mesa County. Incredible. They went back to the Tina Peters case and they got this dude's transcripts from court. He's testifying in court. He says, oh gosh, Your Honor, yeah. BIOS passwords, he's trying to convict her, are very confidential. And when he was asked whether the BIOS passwords could be used to connect the voting machines to the internet, he responded, well, yeah, the BIOS password could enable that connection. You just go in there and just turn it on. Now, I note that this testimony was used in part to prosecute and convict a former elected official who inadvertently released BIOS passwords to one system, prosecuted. And they used that testimony to go convict her. Jena Griswold is a felon. On August 9th, 2021, Jena, your office also published a statement back during this trial from Colorado's Secretary of State's office regarding an official order to Mesa County, which stated that the public disclosure of the BIOS passwords for one or more components of Mesa County alone, just the disclosure of the passwords, Jena is totally screwed here by her own, hoisted by her own petard. That the disclosure of one system alone constitutes a serious breach of the voting system security protocols, as well as a violation of the election rules. Busted, 2 for 2. Then, on August 17th, Jena, you issued an election order. You described images showing the BIOS passwords for Mesa County voting system as sensitive information, right? Someone took a photograph, there's a password in there, oops. As you know, over the last month, many Coloradans have voiced concerns that several voting machine components are equipped with remote access cards that could, if turned on, allow the component to be accessed remotely via the internet. Now, your office has stated that Wi-Fi capability is disabled at the BIOS core level of the voting system equipment. And you know how that is, right? You can go into your own BIOS. If you got a Windows machine or a Linux machine, go in there and just turn stuff on and off. Turn that hard drive on, turn that hard drive off. at the level, then you boot into the operating system, you can't see it. This means whether there is or is not a Wi-Fi chip, the ability for the computer to use it is disabled, right, at the BIOS level. But if you have the password, just turn it back on. Of course, by revealing the BIOS passwords, your office has destroyed this layer of protection. And likewise, in the leader of the association, of the Clerks Association, echoed the importance of the BIOS passwords for wireless security, stating there are wireless antennas in the devices, but they're turned off. Only the state has the passwords to the BIOS to where you can get in to turn them on precisely. So, by Jena's own admission, that's a problem. Second, your refusal, Jena, to acquiesce to our reasonable demands here undermines confidence in our election. And just to point this out as an aside, Jena updated and did everything while she had noticed that Trump's people were objecting to her, saying we have alternative ideas for you. All election officials are aware of the controversies surrounding election administration, as well as the fact that many citizens have lost faith in our systems. President Trump has proposed a reasonable, practical solution to remedy your release of these critical passwords. You possess the ability to help restore confidence in Colorado's voting systems. And so, Jena, it is astounding that you refuse to take practical steps to solve this security breach and to help assure people that their votes will be properly counted. And third, you have announced your intent to conduct an investigation into this matter, which is a poor substitute for a proper audit process. The Colorado General Assembly is charged with auditing the Secretary of State. Executive branch officers should not audit themselves or hire their own auditors because there's an obvious conflict of interest. And she wrote her own rules yesterday that she just followed. We have real concerns that the scope of the audit will be designed to justify your failure to take real action. If you persist in this flawed course of action, please forward us the contact information for the auditors and the description of the scope of the audit. Again, we renew our request that you do the following things. 1, identify those counties for whom the BIOS passwords listed in the disclosed spreadsheet were current as of their most recent trusted build. All right, and that's when everybody goes, looks at the software, creates the final software image, it's validated and certified, they put it on the machine, they're sealing it up, now it's ready. You don't then open it back up and start fiddling with things and then say it's the same build. It's not a trusted build anymore. Now it's a manipulated build. Immediately notify the affected counties and order a new trusted build is required due to, quote, another security issue which you caused under the election rules. Your office should complete the required trusted builds expeditiously. There's a process. She changed the rules that interferes with the process. Once your trusted build is in place in the affected counties, these counties should then be directed to immediately conduct a new logic and accuracy test for their equipment, since you fiddled with it. For these counties for whom a new trusted build is required, and we saw there's like 33 of them, direct them to immediately halt the processing of mail ballots received and to prepare and rescan all the mail ballots already scanned after the new trusted build and logic and accuracy tests are completed. As you know, this is possible because although most counties have already begun to process and scan the return ballots, no county is permitted to disclose the results until election night. Signed by Scott Gessler with Jena. So that obviously did not happen. That is not happening. All they did is just went in there and just changed the password. Now, again, if you have root access to that, who knows what you could do? Turn those on. Maybe someone hops into the machines, updates all the actual operating system software, deletes all the logs. Who knows? No idea. Unless they're going to image those and validate and audit them and then do a rebuild, you can't be sure. You cannot be 100% sure. So it's now questionable. The whole election is now tainted thanks to Jena. And what she did here is very dishonest because Trump's people, and credit to Trump's team and his attorneys on this, were fast, right? As soon as this came up, boom, Jena. And then she just didn't even apparently integrate any of their concerns. She got with the governor. She appointed a bunch of people from her office that she deputized. They jumped out of airplanes and helicopters, apparently, with air assets, whatever the hell that means there, and updated all the machines immediately. No new trusted build. Checked logs, which don't matter. Say there are other security layers, which are a joke. Well, we have other passwords. Okay, well, were they as secured as these on the internet in a hidden spreadsheet? Did people have permission to be in the rooms who may have been doing manipulation, like in Arizona? So questions continue, but she leapfrog over them, right? That's how dishonest this is. This is the cover-up in action. And she didn't incorporate any of their suggestions, and the election is happening right now on a bunch of tainted machines, thanks to Jena Griswold. And she'll still come out and lecture us about free and fair elections. My understanding is she wanted to run for governor at some point in time. Not going to go so well for her after this, but we'll keep our eye in Colorado. Obviously, the entire election is questionable, in part because of the machine password leak, but more specifically because Jena Griswold went out to all those machines and then fiddled with them again. So it's two things that are bad. We don't know whether there was an impact from the actual original leak, which was the original security breach, and then she went in and interfered with the machines in violation of her own rules, and the machines are operational right now. So interesting times in Colorado. We'll keep our eye on it. We also have this representative who is demanding now an audit. He sent one over to the Colorado State Capitol. He's calling for a special session there in Colorado, saying, as a global superpower, our election system is possibly the highest value target in our nation. It determines who leads us. Breaches of our systems cannot be treated casually or politely. We must address these things swiftly. It comes from this guy named Representative Ken DeGraff and others. Brandy Bradley, Scott Bottoms, three different representatives there calling for a special session now to figure this out. We, as duly elected representatives, demand taking immediate action. There's a time of high political unrest right now, and Griswold leaked BIOS passwords on her website. It's a class 5 felony, and we're calling for the immediate revocation of access. The system is compromised, and the system has been compromised for some unknown time, but presumably for a long period. We need to begin the assessment immediately to understand the extent of the breach. Now, the Secretary's public statements are also inaccurate and misleading. According to one cybersecurity expert, being able to access the BIOS allows the system to be booted from a thumb drive to provide unrestricted access, altering passwords, creating backdoors, potentially opening remote access, and accessing and modifying unencrypted data. Another noting that nothing with the USB can be 100% secured. A system penetration with a spreadsheet of BIOS passwords was characterized as an exercise for, quote, the junior team. While only recently discovered, these passwords have been available to low-level hackers for months and years, maintained there by the Secretary on an unrestricted website. This was a blatant and intentional breach of basic security. There's no way to ensure that our election system hasn't been compromised until proven otherwise by a forensic audit. This could be difficult in light of revelations about her attorney that many files potentially relevant to the audit, possibly including the operating system, are intentionally and routinely deleted in violation of voting system standards. So the cover-up is underway. They're just nuking files. The Secretary's own election rules restrict BIOS password access. And when the Secretary pursued charges against Mesa clerk Tina Peters, a Secretary of State official testified that disclosing these passwords for Mesa County after an election would be a serious security threat. The office secretary that Griswold is responsible, they did and made over 600 of these passwords available to the public during an active election. Tina Peters was after the election was over. And that has the equivalent security of a package placed behind a planter on a front porch by putting the passwords online. Compounding the issue is her intentional neglect. She did not even notify the county clerks of the breach. In a highly charged environment, the threat of those inside the system cannot be overstated. Even a complete review of security footage and lock access would likely fail to reveal such a breach. And to our knowledge, no such investigation has even been conducted. Yeah, They were able to review months of security footage in hours and then deploy this update. While a complete reformatting and reinstall might return the machines to operation, it would also destroy potential evidence that we actually need for our criminal investigation, which is a good point. You got to pull all those out, image everything. But she just interfered with the investigation. She interfered with the evidence, okay? She destroyed the evidence by having her people to go touch all the machines. So now you can't even tell. She is such a criminal, it's insane. The 2002 VSS requires that even the operating system needs to be maintained, along with log files and all error messages. All potentially relevant files need to be checked. You don't just go look at the access log. Anybody log in here? The compromised system cannot be used to conduct this election at all. We said this yesterday. It's got to be taken out. All of them. It's crazy, but that's her fault. County clerks must operate under the assumption of a breach of those systems with leaked BIOS passwords or systems leaked to the presumed compromised systems. It is an invitation to pure chaos to allow this system to remain in operation and to expect voters to have the confidence in the outcome. It is time for the gold standard. Again, if you were charged with a DUI and the DUI machine was operated like this, would you have faith in that outcome? Clearly not. It is time. It's not beyond a reasonable doubt, right? This would be like a gold mine for attorneys. It is time for the gold. So it's like the machine had a problem. Somebody made a problem with the machine and the prosecutor went in and was like, I'll fix it. I'll fix the machine. Fixes it. It's like, the machine works now. It's great. Like, what? You just fixed it. You want me to run the blood sample through your fake fixed machine? No, not going to do that. It's time for the gold standard to meet the crucible. Every BIOS compromised machine has been vulnerable to an insider attack for at least a month and potentially outside actors as well, depending on the security. So this meeting is critically needed to confront the unfolding election-related scandal involving Jena. Her role in making the BIOS passwords available online and then covering it up is creating a mistrust in our election. And we must act now before it is too late, especially with our elections in less than a week. That the actions of her office violate the most basic security demands scrutiny at all levels. And she just destroyed the evidence. So now you can't even see what the original machines look like because they're changed. Meeting Rule 1 allows you to pursue special meetings with at least 5 committee members. And additionally, you, as chair, may change date and times as necessary. The LAC is our only quick option to assess our compromised system. A serious course correction is necessary to reestablish trust with Coloradans, and an immediate and public LAC meeting is essential to unravel this mess created by Griswold while initiating an investigation and recertifying the machines. Here is the standard. Here's what we need. All Secretary of State access and authorizations to the website must be terminated. All Griswold access and authorizations to the voting systems must be ended. All compromised machines or those networked to them must be unplugged and secured. All charges against Tina Peters must be immediately withdrawn. Amen. And all Secretary employees involved in this breach and Griswold must resign. We call on the leadership of the Colorado General Assembly to support an emergency legislative hearing to begin the process of rebuilding public trust. And this is true. It's true. You have a corrupted machine, and then Jena went in there and corrupted the machines again. She made it even worse. She should have at least talked to other people about it, but they can't. They have to get this election done. Colorado's election cannot be delayed, man. It's too late. So they're totally screwed. So they have to cover it up, even though all the machines that she touched have been basically compromised once in theory, once by Jena. The password breach was just a theoretical breach. Then Jena went in and updated everything, didn't even listen to Trump's objections to this or the GOP's objections to this, and then she compromised the machines. She wrote her own rule and then compromised the machines. So it's double bad. And they're going to count the votes in Colorado. You better believe it. Those votes are going to come in and you know how they're going to look. All right, so we'll keep our eye in Colorado and see what Griswold says in response. The election's right around the corner, and their machines are bad. All right, let's turn our attention to Minnesota and see what's happening here, because we've got a good update here as well. Republicans declare victory in Minnesota, saying finally they're going to have some fair judges when it comes to adjudicating ballots. Some good news on this one. Came out from the GOP there, says they were notified this afternoon that the Supreme Court had granted their petition and calling it a huge win. Let me give you the highlights on this lawsuit. But it says that the Supreme Court there in Minnesota sides with the Republican Party when it comes to absentee ballots. And so here is the opinion in a short 7-pager out of Minnesota, which is good news for the Republicans. Minnesota normally goes blue, but there are some ideas this cycle that maybe it can go red. Let's see if this might impact that. Now, on October 15th, we had the Minnesota Voters Alliance and the Republican Party. They sued the state and the county auditors for Hennepin County. There's a statute in Minnesota that allows any individual to petition for a correction of a wrongful act, especially for duties during the election. Now, the Republicans were suing, saying that in appointing election judges to the Hennepin County Absentee Ballot Board, okay, so you've got these absentee ballots come in, this board of judges that are looking at these absentee ballots, what happened was the government violated Minnesota election law by failing to appoint any Republicans as judges. They created a list of Republicans to put up there, and the law says they should balance it out, and they didn't. They just appointed a bunch of Liz Cheneys. They contend that respondents had a statutory duty to recruit election judges by first contacting election judges in Hennepin County that we've identified. We gave you a list. You've had this list for years, and you hired none of them because you're partisan hacks. So based on information that Hennepin County provided in October in response to their request, they allege that none of the election judges that were appointed to the Hennepin County Absentee Ballot Board were from the Republican Party list. And they say upon information and belief, they didn't even look at the list prior to appointing the judges. They say election judges must be appointed in reference to a list. The law says that. And there were enough people there to pick from our list. Now, we ordered respondents and the Minnesota Secretary of State to respond. They said, well, did you guys appoint them? What happened here? What's going on? We also required respondents to provide certain information about the judges. Well, who are these people? Are they Republicans or not? In their response, the state came back. They said, well, there are no disputed material facts. We don't even need an evidentiary hearing. All right. So it's like, you agree that there are no Republicans? Respondents maintain that the list of election judges were exhausted and they were authorized to appoint others not on the Republican Party list. So they're like, we called everybody on your list, and they don't want to be judges. They confirm that they have appointed 5 election judges and that 4 of those judges are Democrats, and the 5th is with the Republican Party. They also confirm that the signature verification is always conducted. It's probably is it like a Kinzinger type of Republican? Respondents also confirm that signature verification is always conducted by 2 election judges of different parties. They say that's true. The secretary also filed a response. They claim, he says, well, I'm generally without personal knowledge, but even if we take their allegations as true, we're allowed to do this. We didn't violate the law. We are not required to use party lists. And the only party balance requirement, it says that you just have, they must be different. Like, that's all. They have to be a little bit different. It can't all be one party. And so we've complied. Now, having described the allegations, we turn to whether this petition should be granted. The court says, all right, now we know what is at battle here. They say absentee ballot boards are governed by Minnesota statute. The law requires, it says, the governing body of each county shall create a board. The board must consist of a sufficient number of judges appointed by these laws. Now, these laws cover the appointment, and we determined in another case that these rules apply. We said that the governing body of each county appoints judges from this list, and the governing body may appoint election judges not appearing on a major party list only after it has exhausted the list. So you can call everyone on the list. If there's no one on the list that works for you, then you can go off the list. Now, they rely on our prior articulation of this list exhaustion requirement, saying that they fail to first appoint a Republican. Say we agree. Yeah, we did. In our prior case, we said you have to exhaust the list before you go outside the list. We said that before. They said we said that before. And we did say that before. So why didn't you guys do that? To exhaust the party list, a county must first attempt to appoint all potential judges on the list. But respondents appointed election judges from outside the list without first contacting the people on the list. And because they didn't do that, the law says they should do that. We grant the petition and order relief. It's like black and white law, right? But they didn't do it because they're cheaters. And so they forced the Republicans to sue. They would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for these lawyers filing lawsuits. Can't they just follow the law, for crying out loud? Why do they have to cheat? Although our decision directly addresses the body's obligation to exhaust these lists, we recognize but expressly left undecided the question of whether the party balance requirement is which it requires, half and half. So we didn't talk about that, but these are the same things. Now, we're not claiming that the only task that we're asking for, and the record, fast forwarding, the record before us shows that there is at least one judge in Hennepin County whose party affiliation is Republican, and whose party affiliation, and at least one who is a Democrat. Now, on the issue of whether the party balance requirement applies, the petitioners have failed to provide any legal argument or analysis upon which we can decide that now. We declined to reach that issue here, but now, so they're not going to say how many of each side. You just have to go off the list before you can go. You have to go on the list before you can go off the list. So the petition is granted, saying you must appoint judges from the list, and you may only appoint others once the list is exhausted. Now, respondents are ordered to comply with this. So change the judges, basically. For guidance on how you can make these changes, follow those rules. And now ordered by Natalie Hudson out of Minnesota. So a bit of a victory there in that they got to use the list. They can't just go pick their best friends to put on the judicial rolls for determinations of absentee ballots. But it sounds like as long as they're on those lists, they can still create a balance that favors Democrats, but they'll at least be from the lists. So victory there in Minnesota. We'll see how that plays out in the election. And we know Democrats really like to exploit their absentee ballots. They've been doing that in many states. Minnesota will at least have some Republicans on those ballot determination boards, which is good news for that state. All right, now let's turn our attention over to Michigan, because here we are with a new filing, and a good one here. Jocelyn Benson getting hit with another lawsuit. This one brought by Stephanie Lambert. We've talked about her before because she's being prosecuted there in Michigan by the corrupt government led by Big Gretch Rona and Dana Nessel. But here you can see we've got this person, Sharon Olson, in her official capacity as a clerk of Michigan, and another clerk named Shelley Lake as a deputy clerk in another township. So two clerks versus Jocelyn Benson. Jocelyn Benson is the same woman who said that there was a presumption of validity for signatures when they were doing signature verification, which means there is no signature verification because you presume it to be valid. She is a election partisan who is supposedly going to be conducting free and fair elections. We've seen a history of her doing the opposite. Now she's being sued. And this is what the lawsuit says. courtesy of Stephanie Lambert. And as I mentioned, Stephanie Lambert has been being prosecuted by this state and is continuing to fight. And we appreciate her hard work on this. Now her case has had a good update as of October 21st. She's been charged with felonies, but her attorneys have gotten her trial adjourned until December 2nd because there was a new letter that came out which was important to the defense. Their attorney calls it a game changer, showing that there was, in fact, a lot of new evidence that will support her claims in her case. So good news for her. But the point is, she's still out here and fighting, even after being a victim of political prosecutions, filing new lawsuits. Shout out to Stephanie Lambert. So here is what she's saying here. It says, I'm representing these clerks, and we've got some serious issues. Says, this is a combined complaint. We want a declaration and injunctive relief to stop Jocelyn Benson from doing terrible things in this election. Says the defendants here are not authorized to access or modify or manipulate voting machines, and they're not authorized to allow those actions to be performed on voting machines that are being used. Now, Benson has admitted that we talked about earlier that some Dominion voting machines have a glitch. We played the clip of her earlier this week where she said there was a flaw in the software and that made it so that some people would try to vote one way and the machine would make them vote the other way. You had to check boxes differently. Now, this complaint and this emergency motion is being filed just days before a national election when Jocelyn Benson admitted that there was a nationwide issue with the Dominion voting machines. This wasn't as too late for the voting machines to be fixed, she said, and it shows there's a flaw. It shows these things are not reliable by Jocelyn's own admission. And so we want to stop any actions having to do with the voting machines based on the fact that they're not reliable. The voting machines have been compromised, meaning they are not legally eligible for use, and Michigan voters are not guaranteed a secured election based on these compromised machines. There is no fix to this problem, and Jocelyn now must conduct a hand count of the ballots, not use these machines, for the following reasons. She tells us that the town clerks are constitutional people, and they've got responsibilities to exercise and conduct elections. The clerks, they've got election duties they must abide by the law. And they're responsible for calling special elections in certain circumstances. There's a rule that says a township clerk must call a special election when there's a petition by 10% of qualified voters for a special election, which includes counting and certifying election results. And so now they've got questions about this, right? They say, well, we have all these responsibilities, and we must ensure that our voter files are current. We must appoint qualified people. So they're laying out for us all the responsibilities of their plaintiffs. But then now we have a conflict that's going to pop up. They're there. They got to conduct the election. But all of a sudden, Benson, the Secretary of State, October 25th, they're ready for the election. Benson pops up and says, oh, there's a glitch in certain voter access terminals. We played the clip here, and we read the press release from her office. Shortly thereafter, Benson and or Brader, through the Secretary's office, they announced an update on this issue. They said that the Michigan Bureau of Elections has identified an issue with the Dominion machines that will not stop voters using a VAT from marking their ballot, but may make it more inconvenient for them. Okay, we read that statement. According to Benson, she said, quote, because of this programming issue, voters using Dominion ICX VATs will have to select either the, quote, straight party option if they wish to vote straight ticket, or vote for each race on the partisan selection of the ballot if they wish to split their ticket. While this is the process used in some states, it's not the standard in Michigan, where voters have the option to vote straight party, but then override their party selection for individual races. So it sounds like it might just be a programming thing. Like you can go in, you can click all Republicans, and whoop, all the way down. Then maybe normally you could then also unselect. You go, okay, all Republicans except for Nikki Haley. Okay, uncheck her and vote for the other person or whatever, using an example. That's one operation, but now it doesn't do that. You can vote straight ticket, or you have to click partisan ticket if you want to split it. It's like a flow chart, the logic of the interface. On October 31st, then, Steve from Election Source at 7:04 a.m. sent instructions and guidance on how to bypass and use the compromised voting machines anyway, despite the glitch, and they're not functioning properly. What? That's pretty interesting. That's Exhibit 2. Let's see if that's in here. It's not. Okay. So we've got that. Now, it says voting machines are certified and they're prepared in advance for elections. After that time, it's unlawful and illegal for them to be accessed, modified, altered, or manipulated, whether it's remote or otherwise. So once they're out in service, they're out in service. You're not adjusting things anymore. Access, modification, alteration, and manipulation can lead to adulteration and corruption. This guy, Cotton, is the founder of Cyber Technologies. He's got a master's degree, numerous technical certifications, 27 years experience, 13 years teaching, testified as an expert, testified in front of Congress, leads digital forensics. He's examined the voting machines in Arizona, Antrim County, Michigan, Fulton County, Pennsylvania, Coffee County, and others. He's also reviewed administrative manuals and documentation of Democracy Suite. He also reviewed the public information. He's forensically collected digital evidence from thousands of Windows, Linux, and other machines. He supported forensic preservation and more. Now, he's read and analyzed the remarks that came from Jocelyn about this glitch, and he explains what's happening. He says that these softwares contain specialized applications running on Windows and Linux. These components can be easily forensically preserved in accordance with digital acquisition. And you need to do this. You have to save the hard drive and forensically image these things so you can investigate them. Simply powering up a Windows operating system will change the date and time and the metadata for tens of thousands of files, thus interfering with the analysis. Okay, so when you open it up to change the glitch here, to fix the glitch, you're changing a bunch of stuff. When Jena Griswold goes in and updates the BIOS passwords, she's interfering and tainting the devices. Now, it's critical, and with Jocelyn, right, I think she could use the same excuse. Oh, we have to go update the machine so our disabled people can vote easily. And then they go in, after everything's certified, they change a bunch of stuff, it taints the machines. It is critical to the admissibility and the quality of analysis that the system is preserved. If the system to be preserved is powered on, commonly being termed as live, at the point that it is to be preserved, then the volatile memory should be imaged first before you boot it up. If a device is to be preserved, if it's not imaged immediately and maintained in a powered on state, there is a technical certainty that the data contained on the hard drive and other digital storage devices will be changed. The changing of the data on the system will not require interactive inputs. It's a matter of normal operating. And the voting system components have communication devices in the form of various cards, network interface cards, Wi-Fi cards. Benson has stated that the issue confronting the voters of Michigan is a nationwide issue, she said. The fact that it's a nationwide issue is significant in that it eliminates the election definition file, the machine behavior settings, and the configuration of the individual systems as the root cause of the issue. It's not It's not local problems that Jocelyn created. This also means that the error originates in the source code if it's national. Now, she says the certificate of conformance that's issued by the EAC is known as the certification. The discovery of this occurred on or before the 25th of October. The testing by statute has to occur at least 5 days before the commencement of early voting. Early voting started on October 19th. Any modification of the software would require not only recertification, but also new logic and accuracy tests prior to putting them back into service. Now, given the mandatory notice requirements and the time required to certify these, it's Cotton's expert opinion that correction to the Dominion source code cannot legally meet the timeline before November 5th. And also, he concludes that software components are networked to facilitate the functioning of the voting process. The networking included local area networks and Wi-Fi and cellular data. So any unauthorized modification to any single component of the system places everything at risk. Now, recently, it was discovered that Griswold published her passwords. Benson in Michigan submitted answers saying that neither the state of Michigan or the secretary had control over voting machines, is what she said. She stated that she does not have an understanding or technical knowledge about the machines. She defers to Dominion on those. She also acknowledged that clerks are custodians. In another case, we've had questions about what clerks are required to do. Now, given Cotton's analysis and Jena Griswold's leaky passwords, the fact that Benson has admitted Dominion systems have been compromised, and the fact that Benson have stated that they have no power over these machines, shows it's now upon the township clerks to make sure the vote is valid. But Benson and Brader, they're not authorized to access these machines, and their access to the machines would be ultra-virus, outside the law. It would interfere with the town clerk from having the ability to validate the elections. Now, we also have specific duties as the town clerks to validate these things. And so we want a declaration saying that the township clerks are responsible for validating the integrity of the elections, and asking this court to declare that the integrity of the voting machines has been compromised in Michigan. They want the court to declare that, which will never happen, because even though it may be true, they want the election to be done. It must be declared that Benson or Brader may not order or otherwise access, manipulate, or alter the voting machines in any way, saying that she cannot fulfill her duties, saying an actual controversy exists here because Jocelyn admitted the machines are broken. It's a national problem, and the validation of the machines have not been completed appropriately. We're entitled to a writ of mandamus to stop and compel Benson from allowing any access or modification or any remote access to any of these machines. And as the township clerk, we have a clear legal duty to make sure our elections are not compromised. We also want an injunction. Benson admitted there's a glitch. Irreparable harm will occur because Benson has admitted this glitch is happening here. And it makes people question the election. We also can't make sure that the machines are being preserved and honored. And so the harm to the plaintiff and her citizenry, if the integrity of the machines are damaged further, might impact the integrity of the election. Now, finally, it is beyond doubt that the public interest will be served by the granting of this relief. The fact that Benson and Brader have admitted that the Dominion machines are compromised and that the ostensible fix must be initiated by some outside entity and that it won't be fixed before November 5th is a matter of public interest. And so we want an emergency restraining order stopping Jocelyn Benson and any voting machine vendor from touching or modifying these machines, an emergency order telling them to stop interfering and declaring that they cannot interfere any further. Signed here by Stephanie Lambert, asking, I think essentially for hand counting of the ballots from Stephanie Lambert sent into Jocelyn Benson. So it's another interesting thing that's developing. And my concern is that Jocelyn's going to try to fix this or enable somebody to go touch the machines, and do the same thing that Jena Griswold did. Jena Griswold exploited her own mistake and created a problem for herself that then she wrote a rule for herself to go fix. So now is Jocelyn Benson doing the same thing? Are they deploying Dominion wraps to go in there and try to update these devices because they may have a workaround? We'll keep our eye on it. But Jocelyn Benson in Michigan is doing everything she can to keep this election on track. And she's now facing another lawsuit. We'll see where it goes. The election right around the corner. All right. And so let's jump into Pennsylvania now, because we've got a split situation here. Republicans split wins in Pennsylvania, one victory, one loss. You see, the United States Supreme Court came out and said that Pennsylvania can count contested provisional ballots. And we read through the arguments on this case, and the explanation being that, or the battle being that there were provisional ballots that come in, and the question was, who can count them? And there was clear law that said that county recorders cannot count them, and they just interpreted that basically differently. The Republicans wanted to stop that. The Supreme Court is not allowing them to stop that, meaning the rule will stay in place. So here's what the AP reports. On Friday, our Supreme Court rejected an emergency appeal from Republicans that would have led to thousands of provisional ballots not being counted in Pennsylvania. They left in place a state Supreme Court ruling that election officials must count provisional ballots when their mail-in ballots were rejected. And there's a rule that says they can't count those. The ruling is a victory who had sought to force counties, primarily Republican-controlled counties, to let voters cast a provisional on Election Day if their mail-in ballot was rejected. While the Supreme Court action was a setback for Republicans, the GOP took victory in another case, which is the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. That court rejected a last-ditch effort by voting rights advocates to ensure that mail-in ballots that don't have handwritten dates could still be counted. So, provisional ballots that are brought into county recorders will be counted, but ballots that do not have proper dates on them will not be counted. So kind of a one win, one loss split here. The rulings are the latest in years of litigation. Let me just show you what these rulings look like. This came out from the Supreme Court. This was the loss for the Republicans. They say this application was presented to Alito and is denied. Here's what Alito said. And Gorsuch and Thomas join, respecting the denial of the application for a stay. They say, this case concerns a recent decision of the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania that adopted a controversial interpretation of the Pennsylvania Code. Specifically, the court held that a provisional ballot must be counted even if the voter previously submitted an invalid mail-in ballot within the time required by law. The applicants say that this interpretation flouts the plain meaning of the Pennsylvania law, which we read through, of the election code, and that the interpretation is so far afield that it violates the Constitution. Now, seeking to prevent county election boards from following that interpretation in next week's election, the applicants ask us to stay the judgment or at least order the separation of the ballots that may be impacted. Now, the application of the state Supreme Court interpretation in the upcoming election is a matter of considerable importance. But even if we agreed with their federal constitutional argument, Alito says, a question on which I express no view at this time. We could not prevent the consequences they fear. The lower court's judgment concerns just 2 votes in the long-completed Pennsylvania primary. Staying that judgment would not impose any binding obligation on any Pennsylvania officials who are responsible for the conduct of this year's election. And because the only state election officials who are parties in this case are the members of the Board of Elections in one small county, we cannot order other election boards to sequester affected ballots. For these reasons, I agree with the order denying the application. Okay, so long story short, Alito saying, I can't do anything about this right now. Election's too close, and you don't have all the necessary parties. It's not meaningful enough for us to act on because it's just basically too small and too close to the election. So you're asking for a remedy that we cannot even deliver to you because you have not brought the other counties in, and so our order will not bind them. So you're asking for kind of a statewide order, but you don't have the appropriate parties here. So those provisional ballots will now be accepted. Very short order from Alito. We've got a similar situation here, but in reverse. The Supreme Court of Pennsylvania, they came out and they will now deny the counting of ballots that are not properly dated on the outer seal. They say from the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, so this is a victory for the Republicans, on this first day, this emergency application is granted. The stay is entered. They say the application for leave and the request to restore integrity is granted. Saying that the stay is granted. So in other words, those ballots will not be counted. So here's some more on this. The ruling overturns a decision finding that the state law that required a handwritten date was unconstitutional. So now the law that requires a date on the ballots, it's going to be in effect, has to be on there. That's good news. Dates are important because we want ballots to come in before the election is over. And so this is a good decision, but we're kind of 50-50 out of Pennsylvania in the Supreme Court there. A good victory for Republicans. Now, meanwhile, on the election news front, what we're seeing in Pennsylvania is something very different than what we're seeing in other places like Minnesota and Michigan from the Kamala Harris campaign. In fact, CNN is calling Kamala out on this. Kamala has 2 different campaign ads running in 2 different states, 2 different demographics. We've got the Free Palestine people in Michigan and Minnesota, and we've got the Israel people in Pennsylvania. And how do we know that? Well, because Kamala knows that. And she's playing different ads for the different demographics in different groups. The problem is, those groups kind of are on separate sides of that issue. Hard to promise one side something and say that that's good for the other side because they know that's not true. So Kamala, the fakest candidate in modern American history, is telling everybody what they want to hear, lying to both sides.
Tonight, mixed messages. A K-file investigation this hour finds Kamala Harris is targeting crucial battleground voters with vastly different messages on Gaza and Israel. This ad is running in Michigan, which has the largest Arab population in America.
What has happened in Gaza over the past 9 months is devastating. We cannot allow ourselves to become numb to the suffering, and I will not be silent.
All right, well, it's a very different story for an ad in Pennsylvania targeting Jewish voters.
Let me be clear. I will always stand up for Israel's right to defend itself, and I will always ensure Israel has the ability to defend itself, because the people of Israel must never again face the horror that a terrorist organization called Hamas caused on October 7.
Wow. Okay.
Different message. Andrew Kaczynski is out front now. So, Andrew, those obviously do sound starkly different, to say the least. Tell me more about what you found.
Yeah, that's right. And this really illustrates the sort of fine line that the Harris campaign is trying to walk here in the closing weeks, closing days of this campaign on the issue of Israel. Here you have two entirely different constituencies, and they are getting two entirely different messages. There are often times these constituencies have very opposing views on this. If you are a Jewish person in Pennsylvania, you saw that ad that you're getting. You are getting that ad that talks about how strong she is in Israel. If you're a Muslim voter in Michigan, you are getting that ad on Facebook that's talking about how she won't be silent on the issue of Gaza. Now, what's really interesting here is that ad that we just played, the one that's going to Jewish voters in Pennsylvania. Now, it sort of sounds like those two clips of her talking about Israel are together, but they actually cut part of it out. Take a listen to what they cut.
What has happened in Gaza over the past 10 months is devastating.
Wow.
President Biden and I are working to end this war such that Israel is secure, the hostages are released, the suffering in Gaza ends, and the Palestinian people can realize their right to dignity, security, freedom, and self-determination.
She says everything to both sides. It's totally dishonest. And is either side happy about that? Like, are the pro-Palestine people happy that she's lying and exploiting them to their faces? And are the pro-Israel people happy about that too? Like, well, as long as she says something that's nice to us, we don't care if she says something nice to the other side. It's totally fake.
And you've seen, too, that they cut out that portion of the ad where they talked about Gaza from her DNC speech. Those two parts were together. They sliced them. They cut that part out. Now, look, she's also getting hammered a lot on this issue by Republicans. We talked just a couple days ago about how those robocalls were airing in Wisconsin that are made to sound like they're in support of Jill Stein, talking about her position on Gaza, saying that they're highlighting her pro-Israel position, and they're sort of trying to siphon those votes away from her. So this is a really delicate issue for her.
Oh, it certainly is. I mean, the Palestinian people can realize their right to dignity, security, freedom, and self-determination are being cut out. It's important to notice that. All right.
Yeah, it's dishonest, okay? She's a liar, and she just lies to the constituencies that she needs to lie to because apparently she thinks they're too stupid to know better. All right, so we've got that. Now, here is just some amazing goodness that we're sharing out of New Hampshire. American hero Lily Tang obliterated Jake Sullivan's wife on the debate stage in New Hampshire, and it was very enjoyable. We have several clips here, but first let me introduce you to this woman, Lily Tang Williams, Republican nominee for Congress, and she's a survivor of Mao's Cultural Revolution, and she's sick of seeing it happening here in America, birthed again by people like Jake Sullivan's wife. She's in New Hampshire. She's a wife and mother, entrepreneur, and professional speaker, and likes to live free or die, baby, as do we all. And she was debating this woman. Her name is Maggie Goodlander. Maggie Goodlander, and does have a Homelander vibe, but has a very interesting husband named Jake Sullivan. You know who Jake Sullivan is. He's our national security advisor, this guy. He was the same guy who was Hillary's senior advisor, who created the Russian collusion hoax and has been constantly begging for war against Russia as part of the neocon movement, which is within the Democratic Party now. And so a global warmonger, his wife apparently moved back into New Hampshire just out of the blue and is running for Congress now, where she's going to give more money to Ukraine to stop the Russians. And so she was out on the debate stage talking with somebody who's actually experienced what it's like to live in a communist hellhole. And her name is Lily Tang, and she came out, and this woman, you can follow her on X at Lily for Liberty and support her campaign, lilytangwilliams.com. She was on the debate stage. It was a lot of fun. Here is where she laces into Goodlander, aka Mrs. Sullivan, on costs and prices in America.
Ourselves in this predicament is because Donald Trump decided to advance a tax policy that was really dedicated to a basic idea, to giving a big break to the wealthiest in this country and to the biggest corporations. This is a worldview that my opponent has embraced. She believes that we should give a break to the wealthiest and the biggest corporations and hope for the best, hope that the results will trickle down to hardworking people. I take a very different approach. I believe that the middle class deserves a tax cut, and I believe that we will do a lot for this country by ensuring that we don't continue this disastrous tax policy.
Ms. Tong Williams.
You are wealthy. You are worth $20 million to $30 million.
Yeah.
How do you know about regular people suffering? Do you go shopping, go to Walmart, buy food? I talk to those people. And you pretend to be renter in Nashua a few months ago, move back to run for this open seat with millions of dollars from Washington, D.C. insiders. And the millions of dollars. I don't have money to run a TV ad. And you pretend you are poor, complain rent is so high. You couldn't save that apartment for other people to rent in Nashua. Just go back to your $2 million home in Portsmouth. Please don't say that, because you do not understand regular people's concern. People cry in my arms on District 2.
Maggie?
Amazing.
You know, this is such an important issue. You're focused on me. I am focused on the voters and on the issues that matter to them. And high cost is something that, like I said, I'm going to fight with everything I've got to reduce the pain that people are feeling all across this district. But I would just say,
why? By sending more money to Ukraine?
One of the things I learned from my family growing up here in New Hampshire,
middle class?
And this is the state that made me who I am today, is that you pay it forward, you give back. And I've dedicated my life to serving our state and our country. I've done it in the Navy, I've done it at the Justice Department, I've done it at the White House. And it would be the honor of my lifetime to do the same thing, to serve another oath of office to our Constitution, which I love so much, on behalf of this district.
Let's keep talking about the cost of living and an expense that a lot of families are struggling with these days. That's the high cost of childcare. A report from the organization Child Care Aware shows that Granite Staters who have an infant at a child care center, along with a toddler there at the same time, are paying about $32,000 a year. Now, there have been tax credit proposals and hiring incentives, but can you pledge tonight to do something dramatic to really make childcare accessible to mass numbers of families, Ms. Goodleman?
Look, this is such an important issue, Adam. I hear about it everywhere I go.
You just gave her an answer. Why don't you go over to Lily Tang? She just finished talking, okay? Why are you giving her another question? Okay, what's up, Lily? Let's go.
Of bipartisan cooperation.
Ms. Tong Williams, should Congress do something dramatic to lower the cost of childcare?
I don't know what that dramatic means. When government prints money, drive up a cost of energies, food, and labor cost goes up.
Yeah.
Then unnecessary regulations make lots of people who want to maybe take care of children also have to go through the red tapes. When government creates a problem, then they blame on other things.
Yeah.
Then they offer bigger government solutions to give you more printed money, then inflation goes up some more. It's a vicious circle. We need to bring down inflation. That will drive the labor costs going down. And then we look at our spending priorities and what is the reason we come together. We need to put our people first. But don't forget, we sent $175 billion to Ukraine.
Yes!
$175 billion. Every Democrat in U.S. House voted for it and waved Ukrainian flag, where our people, our veterans, our mom, dad cannot afford simple daily costs like that. And the mainstream media don't report that. And I need to tell you the truth. Who is going to put the people's interests first?
Ms. Tong Williams, that's time. Next question from Steve Botari.
Incredible. Okay, so amazing. Absolutely amazing. She's right. What do you want? More government? You want $1 billion for childcare that's going to be printed so that everything else is going to go up too? How about we stop wrecking our currency and stop destroying our economy and stop sending our love and resources over to foreign countries? Amazing. Lily Tang, 2024, baby. New Hampshire House of Representatives. Now, here's another exchange where she calls out Jake Sullivan, our national security advisor, the same guy who tried to rig 2016 with a fake Russian collusion hoax. Hillary Clinton and Jake Sullivan, her husband, tried to rig 2016 with a fake Russian collusion ex post. It's still out there. And here Jake Sullivan gets brought into the conversation.
Of New Hampshire understand that this is a fight for freedom and it's a fight for democracy. This is an unjust war that Vladimir Putin waged against a sovereign nation. My opponent believes that the path to peace is through Vladimir Putin.
What?
I know from my own professional experience that that is just so dead wrong. Early in my career, if I could finish, please. Early in my career, I worked for Senator John McCain to take on Vladimir Putin. I'm banned from Russia for life because of that work. And I believe deeply in the cause of freedom in Ukraine.
Ms. Tong-Williams, 30 seconds.
Your math cannot add up, okay?
Your math.
And I'm very good with math. Maybe that's stereotype for aging Americans. If you want to pay all the stuff you want to pay, then do your math. How are we going to pay for it? Show me the path. Borrow money from China or print money to drive up inflation. And you say Ukrainian flag everywhere in Nashua. I have not seen that many. As I said, if Democrats want to do this, billionaires want to do this, neocons want to do this, please do. Donate your own money. So many people have died. It's time to bring peace and talk to the table. President Trump is talking about he will be for peace deals as soon as he gets elected. We cannot afford to engage in endless wars. And your husband, Jake Sullivan, National Security Advisor, is causing world on fire because he's incompetent. He should get fired.
Yes!
Ms. Goodlander, 30 seconds.
Again, my opponent is focused on me, and I would appreciate if we could stick to the issues and not personal attacks.
Hey, your husband is a political figure. What are you talking about? He's Jake Sullivan. The world is on fire. We're at war with Russia. There's a Middle East battle between Gaza and Israel that's now popping off into Iran. We've got total madness in the region, the South China Sea. I mean, things are problematic now because of your husband. And don't get all upset because she called out his terrible leadership. He should be fired. He should resign. He was behind a fake hoax in 2016, blamed Russia back then because it's been a multi-generational effort to just go after Russia for some stupid reason. And you're going to sit here and lecture Americans in New Hampshire about Lily Tang's love for Putin, dictatorship, when she's come out of it and she's speaking more truth than anybody's heard from a politician in a long time.
But I'm focused on the issues, and this is a real point of disagreement.
Your math does not add up. The issue is your math does not add up.
Yeah, do some
Ms.
math.
Williams, let her finish.
This is a real point of disagreement between the two of us. I was really proud to serve for 11 years as an intelligence officer in the Navy Reserve, and one of the things I saw was just how important it is for us to be strong.
Amazing. So she's intelligence, DOJ, and married to Jake Sullivan. Oh, man, hopefully New Hampshire knows better.
In the face.
Botari, we're going to continue on foreign policy.
By some in your party to end American support because of the tens of thousands of Palestinian civilians who have been killed. You have said, when it comes to questions about whether a nation state has committed a war crime, those judgments are made by prosecutors and by investigators, not by congressional candidates. But as someone who would vote on further aid to Israel, what is your assessment about Israel's actions in Gaza, and should Americans' aid continue no matter what?
Look, I believe that Israel has a right to defend itself. It has a right to exist, and we shouldn't have to say that. But, October 7th was the deadliest attack on the Jewish people since the Holocaust. Israel has a right to defend itself, and in Congress, I will fight to make sure that Israel has the resources it needs to defend itself against its enemies, because I believe that Israel's enemies, Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran, and Iranian-backed groups, are America's enemies. This is an investment in our own national security. But look, Israel is also a democracy that has a responsibility to protect the lives of innocent civilians. So as I've said, I believe deeply that the path forward here is, number one, to bring about the state that we had before October 7th, which was a ceasefire, a return of the hostages that have been kept in brutal captivity in Gaza for over a year now, and a surge in humanitarian assistance into Gaza, because no one should go without food or water or medical care. And this is a responsibility that the United States and Israel have to the people of Gaza.
Okay, as an objective politician, she's pretty good, right? She has answers that are totally meaningless, but have the talking points. I mean, and she came out, reconfirmed total commitment to Israel. They have all the money in the world that they want from us, and simultaneously showing some humanitarian. She is a nice kind of a very strong pro-Israel statement, but balanced. She kind of walked it back a little bit on humanitarianism, and so like practiced and ready to go on this. It's very curious, and she's just an intelligence operative. She's just an intelligence agent running for Congress next to Jake Sullivan. And she looks like it, right? Almost comes off like a Homelander vibe, literally, if you've seen that show. Almost a little bit too perfect, right? Bizarre.
Ms. Tong-Williams, you've expressed your strong support for Israel, but also say the U.S. needs to ask, like you've discussed in the previous question, how we're going to pay for that support.
Yeah.
Do you want to stop sending military or financial aid to Israel? And if so, what would persuade you?
Morally, diplomatically, and as an ally, we support Israel. I do. And it's only democracy in the Middle East. And it's Americans' best interest and to keep Israel free and democratic. President Trump actually broke several peace deals in Middle East. He was nominated for actually Nobel Peace Prize. Of course, mainstream media will not report that.
Yeah, that's true.
And right before, Saudi Arabia and Israel reached peace deals, and Hamas attacked Israel. Think about who is behind that attack. How did Hamas get all this money? Iran. And guess who gave billions of dollars to Iran, enabled them to buy hundreds of billions of dollars, actually sell hundreds of millions of dollars oil to China? Thanks to our national security advisor who runs our foreign policy. So we need to come up. We support Israel, but when it comes to money-wise,
Jake Sullivan.
and we need to have smarter, effective foreign policies.
All right.
Next question from Ariel
interesting,
Mitrop.
right? So she gives the standard kind of Republican answer on Israel and Iran and all that. But I'll say she did a nice job threading the needle there, saying, well, who funded all of that? Her husband, right? This guy. He's responsible for it all. So that was really actually pretty masterful. It's like, oh yeah, 10-7 was terrible. You know who's responsible for 10-7 in Israel? Jake Sullivan. That's where it came from. So, all right. Shout out to Lily Tang, man. She's doing a great job out there. Hopefully she beats Goodlander. I highly doubt it. You can see I hope so. I mean, there's a little internet phenomenon happening. So get out there. If you're in New Hampshire, get out there and vote for Lily Tang, baby, because she's bringing it out against the deep state. And she's an intelligence candidate operative. Like, that's it. And she's married to another intelligence operative called Jake Sullivan. 2 peas in a pod all over Washington. Incredible. So shout out to Lily Tang, my friends in New Hampshire. Get out, vote for Lily Tang, baby. And we'll make New Hampshire great again, too. All right. Thanks, my friends, for being here. Now, if you're just joining us, it's a beautiful Saturday. Great to see you here. We have so much stuff cooking. We couldn't miss a day. We had Washington updates, Colorado updates, Washington. So quick updates on what we talked about if you're just joining us. We've got Washington, National Guard, Jena Griswold back and forth with President Trump in Colorado over their BIOS passwords. All the machines should be taken out of service. Republicans won in Minnesota. They now have Republican judges who will be on absentee ballot boards. In Michigan, Jocelyn Benson is getting sued over her glitched out machines that are apparently nationally glitched machines courtesy of Dominion that she made an admission about during a press conference. In Pennsylvania, Republicans split. They lost at the Supreme Court, which is now going to allow provisional ballots to be counted by county recorders. Don't know how big of a number that will be, but certainly consequential. But Republicans did win by keeping out ballots that do not have proper dates on them, which I think is actually probably a bigger win than the loss. So end game better for Republicans there. Kamala Harris is running 2 different versions of campaigns. She thinks that pro-Palestine and both Jewish people are so dumb that they're not going to know that she's telling them exactly what they want to hear while telling the other side the opposite. And in New Hampshire, Lily Tang is bringing the ruckus against Jake Sullivan's wife, Goodlander, a.k.a. Mrs. Sullivan, in New Hampshire. And my friends, it's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day. And it's an amazing Saturday. And I hope you're voting as hard as you've ever voted before. Just take that pen out, baby. Just right in there. Vote it. And that's only part 1. Part 2 is you got to put it in that slot. Put your ballot in that slot. Shove it in there like you've never shoved it in there before. Put it in there nice and good. because it's time, baby. So, my friends, let's hear from you. It's a beautiful day. Let's see who's here in the house. What's up? We got K Beans clipping for us. Thank you, K Bean. We got John McGarvey's in the house too, clipping for us. Thank you, John McGarvey. It's a beautiful day, my friends. Of course, we are going to go over as soon as we're done here to locals, watching thewatchers.locals.com. We're going to hang out and debrief a little bit. Thanks for becoming membos, wherever you are. We love you. Thank you, membos. And we love our donos too. We got some great donos in the house. What's up, SK Bennett? Thanks for becoming a membo, SK Bennett. We had some good membos videos we posted this week. I posted some videos outside the Trump Tucker event. So if you just became a membo, be sure to check those out. Thank you, SK, for supporting us. Hey, you too, Weekend Gamer. Thanks for supporting us, brother. And yeah, grab those membos only videos. And if you're a new YouTube membo, then grab the members only Telegram link for the after party. If you go over to the community tab on YouTube, if you're a membo, scroll down, you'll find the Telegram link. You can join us. What's up, Tony Hay Munkets? 5 membos coming in, courtesy of Tony Hay. Thank you, Tony Hay. We got CK Timmy coming in, Angie Harover. What's up, Chris Solitary One? We got Donetta Swift, Golden Gaming gifted membos, and Dana R gifted membos, courtesy of Tony Hay Munkets. I don't think there is a way to gift a membo to a specific person. I don't think there is, to my knowledge. Chris, it's a good question, though. There should be a way. Essential Bytes, there should be a way. YouTube should allow you to do that, to like gift even a year membo. Like that'd be a great thing to be able to do. Wouldn't it be nice to gift somebody a year membership to our community? Wouldn't that be nice? It'd be nice for me. Anyways, hey, what's up? And for them, and for you, giving a nice gift, but you can't do it. So Essential Bytes says, finally able to be here for a live show. I miss you, Essential Bytes. We miss you. Is it because it's Saturday? Have you been just busy as can be? 8 months as a membo, 1 more month till we have a full baby in the house. And we're glad you could make it, Essential Bytes. Thanks for coming by. Miller Time says, hey, Rob, I live in Georgia. I received a text offering me a total of $700 to vote for Kamala. What? I clicked on the link and it was leading me to be a voting ambassador for Kamala. I voted day 1 for Trump, so it kind of shows there is incompetence, but how is that legal? They're basically buying votes. Yeah, I don't think that is legal. I don't think that is legal. I don't know what you got or who's behind that or where that's coming from. Like you can't buy a vote. Maybe they're hiring you to be an ambassador. So like if they phrase it as that, oh, you're going to be an ambassador. What are you going to do? Well, you're going to just go rally votes for Kamala. And have you voted? Kind of a thing, right? That might be different. But interesting. Thank you, Miller Time. A lot of weird text messages and stuff going around right now. Glocky says, the National Guard is comprised of combat arms military police, infantry tankers, and the reserves. The reserves is comprised of your support. Units like cooks, transportation, and such. Again, it just goes to show that No Balls Walls has no idea what the F he's talking about. Yeah, I thought that was pretty offensive of him to say that about the National Guard. I know he served in the National Guard and then kind of was diminishing to his own service members. Very strange. Hey, what's up, Rick D? What's up, Rick Donner? Says, here's Jena using her air assets flying around on her broomstick. Yeah, sounds about right. Funny. Donna Oldham. What's up, Donna Oldham? Thanks for being a membo. And thanks for supporting us today with this nice emoji. It's a nice looking emoji. Thank you, Donna. Grateful for that. We've got this one from Ani. What's up, Oni? 5 membos coming in, bringing in Just Joy, Toby Mayer, Nancy K, Colin DeBin, and Sherry Dawson. Gifted membos, courtesy of Oni in the house. Thank you, Oni, for doing that. Hey, Willie Luthen, 7 months as a membo. What's up, Willie? Proud to be here for 7 months. Best YouTube stream. Thank you, Willie. I appreciate you being here. That's 2 more months. We've got a full baby. That's a long time to be together, and we're just warming up, Willie. Thanks for that. Appreciate it. We got Jeffrey Adams. Says his name is Walter Ringfield. What was the association with the Arizona company Field Media Corp? Very important. Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention that. I saw this post from, who was that? I think I have that bookmarked. Okay, so we're coming back tomorrow. So we'll flesh out Arizona tomorrow. We're doing a Sunday stream because it's election season, baby, man. If Trump's out there campaigning 5 times a day or whatever it is, we can do another stream and cover some of this litigation. Okay, so this is where this came from. Carolyn Wren, shout out to Carolyn Wren, doing some amazing reporting. She's apparently found this, that Walter Ringfield Jr., according to an Adrian Fontes circulator portal, was working for Fieldworks LLC. Okay, that's the connection. So interwebs, look into that, right? We'll come into this tomorrow, but I saw this from Carolyn Wren. So here's the backstory, okay? Walter Ringfield is this guy who allegedly stole a key fob or misappropriated a key fob. Fieldworks LLC was the main company. They had a subsidiary called Fieldworks and Media, which was operating out of Pennsylvania. They're responsible for fraudulent registration ballots, this company, allegedly. So they apparently had a circulator called Walter Ringfield, who also had the key fob. And so I was speculating that this could all come full circle, right? What if this was just one operation? You just need, like, for example, if Ringfield had the key fob and he had access to the machine and somebody else had the passwords, there you go. He just goes and connects the USB drive because he should be there, or he had a key fob. Maybe he shouldn't have been there, but stole the key fob. So it's very, very strange connections. Okay. That's what we're talking about. So thanks for the reminder on that, Jeffrey Adams. Almost forgot. We'll probably get back into that tomorrow. What's up? Knox says, happy Saturday, all. More blackmailed celebs come out for Kamala. Yeah, I saw that. Diddy's ex-girlfriend urges Americans to trust her judgment. Yeah, that was from J-Lo. Yeah, J-Lo came out. They brought out some other woman last night. Cardi B, who was reading from her cell phone. No idea what that was. Hey, Milo Phone Bill says, are these voting machines so old that they still have BIOS passwords? Time to trash them. Modern machines running Windows 10 and 11 have UEFI. Are the hard drives encrypted? They should have been. Were their keys leaked for that too? Sounds like they had basically everything compromised from the root. Yeah, I think they do still have BIOS. They're probably old machines, probably still running old Windows server stuff. Let's go, Brandon from Teleplayer says, read this, please. Does Georgia's algorithm assisted documented fraud, does that rise to the level of treason? Is there a coup d'etat? Ooh, amazing. Okay, so tomorrow I think we'll have queued up Arizona. We'll look into Georgia. We didn't get to those today. So thanks for that. Let's go, Brandon. Rick Donner says, from the numbers I've seen reported, would take less time and paper to just give them the counties that were not affected. Interesting, from Rick Donner. Thank you, Rick. Hey, Knox says, so far this week we have learned of leaked passwords, intercepted ballots, ballot boxes set ablaze. Someone needs to have a spreadsheet of all these odd coincidences. Does anyone know of such a thing? Like, I have clients doing 40 years based on circumstantial evidence, and like all this is happening. Yeah, I know, Knox. It's not funny. It's not funny at all. Like the way you act, like I have clients doing 40 years based on circumstantial evidence, right? Like, what the hell is this? I know. No, but that's a good suggestion. Yeah, I have so many. It's like the problem with this and the problem with my production here is that we cover so much so quickly. It's hard for me to pause, catch my breath, look backwards, and aggregate and review what we've reviewed, if that makes sense. We just cover so much. We're looking to as soon as we're done, I'm looking to tomorrow. What's happening next? What's happening next? What's happening next? So I never really have a moment to even catch my breath to look backwards and to assemble such a thing. But it's crazy. I mean, it's every day. It's like, what? Knox is here. Here goes my ballot. Yeah, that's what it looks like. At least you voted though. Hey, Ollie, what's up, Ollie? Brought in Robert Davis. Great to see you, Ollie. Hey, what's up, Just Rhonda? Just Rhonda is our purveyor of fine emojis in the YouTube. Says, sharing a cup of whatever y'all are drinking. What's up, Just Rhonda? And Just Rhonda is having some YouTube censorship problems. So good to see you, Just Rhonda. Watching the Watcher's puppy. Nice cup of Joe. AO 1968 says, thanks for working weekends for us. Hey, baby, I'm glad to be here. It's my pleasure to be here. And I was inspired by Trump. I was out at the event last, Thursday night? Yeah, Thursday night. with Trump and Tucker, and I realized that dude was in Albuquerque, Nevada, and Arizona, 3 states in one day. And he's like in 3 states these next 3 days. It's crazy. So we'll be here on Sunday. We're going to make sure we keep some energy here and be riding this train through the election, baby. Ollie, thanks for being here and joining us, AO. Hey, Ollie, brought in Be Still. Gifted a membo to Be Still. Thank you, Ollie. And Ollie says, hey, Rob, thank you for sharing and explaining. I voted yesterday. Trump 24, baby. Amazing. Good to see you, Ollie. Thanks for that. Glad that you did that. And my friends, text everybody you know. Text your friends. I'm texting my friends. I texted, I don't know, probably 6, 7 people yesterday. And most people had voted, or people were voting yesterday. Several people I texted yesterday said, hey, man, I'm actually on my way there right now voting. And there were lines. I also asked people about lines. How'd it look today when you're out there? How are the lines today? And here, I'll show you like this one. In Arizona, there's stuff happening. So like here, this is from my friend Kyle. He shared this picture. Kyle's awesome. This is what it looked like when he went out and voted in Arizona yesterday. Right? So text your bros, man. This is what Kyle was showing us. And then my other friend he said it was about 45 minutes. And then another friend shared a video. Lines out the door. So if you think you're going to go just vote, on election day, and like you're going to be in and out in 5 minutes, like let's plan, right? There's stuff going on. So text your bros, text your sisters, get everybody out there. What's up? Ollie, Pantosaurus Rex is coming in. Thank you, Ollie, for bringing in another memo. Ollie says, VP overseeing the counting of electoral college votes. Yeah, Kamala. She can't do much, but yeah, she'll count them. It'll be great when she counts her loss. Aaron Stevens. What's up, Aaron? Thanks for becoming a membo and supporting us. Grab the Telegram link if you want to join us, and grab the members-only content because we posted some good stuff this week. Rick D. What's up, Rick D? Rick Donner bringing in 5 membos. Thank you, Rick. Aaron Troyer. Tiamo Lisa. Stephanie Gorski's here. Johnny Douglas. And Heather Devine in the house, courtesy of Rick Donner. Thank you, Rick. Aaron Stevens just became a membo and is bringing in 5 more membos. Thank you, Aaron Stevens. 5 membos here. We got Skinky Bat, Joe Tomaski, Mayito's here, Rebecca Mafia Ma, and David Quadrer in the house, courtesy of Aaron Stevens. Thank you, Aaron. Very nice of you to become a membo and bring in new friends so quickly. F. Joe Biden says, Lily should have said she looks like a man. Mike Restock. Hey, Mike Retsock. What's up, Mike? Hey, thank you, Mike. Says always quickness and solid analysis. Thank you, Mike. Thanks for being here and joining us, man. I appreciate the dono on the day. Today was a solid, I think we had a solid stack. Boom, 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 boom. It was a good one. Glad we got to get through it together. Thank you, Mike. Hey, Data's here. Army cooks work harder than Intel. Army cooks work harder than Intel. Then Jake Sullivan? Probably. Well, they produce things that are actually good. They actually produce something. Jake Sullivan just produces billion-dollar invoices and death. Army cooks can at least feed you a nice meal. Ollie, what's up? Juarez Playa in the house became a membo. And more here is bringing in more here. Angela Jackson Mack got gifted a membo courtesy of More Here. Thank you, More Here, for bringing in new friends. New friends? Angela, welcome. Patrick Van Netternin. We got Madam Von Kook, welcome. Joe K here and Shifra Morgan in the house, courtesy of More Here. Thank you, More Here, for bringing in More Here. We've got this one from NY. Says that exchange with Jake Sullivan's wife reminds me of my local congressional race. In CA 41, this guy Rollins is trying to run again as a Democrat. His reason for me to vote for him is that he prosecuted Jay's 6 cases. He said, I'm for enforcing the law. My response is that I hope that a Trump DOJ should enforce 18 U.S. Code 242, deprivation of rights under the color of law. He asked if I was a lawyer. I said, no, just a watcher. And we are many. Yeah, NY. I like that, bro. That's awesome. Are you a lawyer? No, but I am a watcher. One of many. Amazing. That guy's like quivering in his boots. He's like, oh, this guy, shoot, what are you, a lawyer? Deprivation of rights. I like it. Good. He should know. There will be repercussions for depriving us of our rights. Amazing, NY. No, just a watcher. We are many. Love it. Maria. Hey, what's up, Maria? Maria K. Maria Kathleen says, been so busy. Love and miss you all. On my way to vote. Yes. Let's go. Maria, I love it. I love it. Let's go. Get out and vote, my friends. Get those ballots in. Vote extra hard and shove those ballots in like you've never shoved it in before. It's going to be great. It's going to feel so good. Art Pollard says, vote so we may be unburdened by what has been. Yeah, it's true. We are inspired by Kamala in that regard. She's been a hell of a burden on our lives. We do want to be unburdened by what has been the Kamala administration. Terrible. Hey, what's going on? KTJ says, have you heard of the new Colorado Vacation movie? It's going to be starring a new cousin of Griswold's, Jena Griswold's. She'll be portraying a corrupt politician. That's hysterical. Jena Griswold does election 2024. And it's just like Jena, she's just like running around the office. It's just like one joke after another. She's trying to connect all the election machines, plug them all in to all the outlets. Somebody's flipping the switches. Her machines are going on and off. She's like, what's going on with these machines? Then she cuts down a Christmas tree and then the machines explode. It'd be great. It'd be like a great movie. Hey, Milo Phone Bill says, hurry up and vote. You might run into a psycho swinging a machete. Oh my gosh. Florida teen swinging a machete during early voting, courtesy of CNN. All right. Well, it doesn't, hopefully it didn't hit anybody. Brandishing a machete is what the story says. All right. Aaron Stevens says, don't let the government take care of your babies. Yes, that is excellent advice from Aaron Stevens. Thank you, Aaron, for that comment. 2 months as a membo. Yeah, then they're the government's babies. They want your babies. Joe Biden's eating them at the White House. It's not ideal. Baby feet in his mouth. Can somebody stop him? And this morning he was walking down the tarmac, just walking down the airplane tarmac, just walking off into the sunset. Almost just want to let him go. Just let him go. This is it. This is his time. He's walking off into the sunset. This is it. Just let him go. All right. So, my friends, we are going to leave it there and jump on over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com. And of course, we'd love to see you over there. If you're a YouTube member and you want to join us for the after party, grab the Telegram link. It's a separate app, but download Telegram and you can join us over there. We're live there. Otherwise, my friends, it's election season. And I know I'm like a broken record on this about getting the vote out, but there are still people who have not done it. If you're voting on election day, block out like 3 hours, block out like 4 hours, whatever it is for your day, like block it out, because there are delays right now, especially if you're in Arizona. I had several friends. Some people said 15 minutes. Some people, I dropped my ballot off in 2 seconds, 2 minutes, but it was a few days ago. So plan accordingly. People are having difficulties in places like Pennsylvania, so we got to get our votes in. So please, 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 this is it. Block the timeout. And we're coming back tomorrow to do it. Except tomorrow's show, I think, is only going to be allowed for people who voted, who are eligible to vote. So just keep that in mind. We're going to limit it tomorrow. Only for eligible voters who voted. Unless you're going to vote on election day, then you can watch too. But we got to get those votes in, baby. It's going to be amazing once we do. So, all right, my friends, we're going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com. And we are going to be back here tomorrow to get into it again. I believe it'll be about the same time, maybe 1 hour later, but it'll be a Sunday show. We're going to see what else is percolating out there. There's a flurry of activity all over the place, and we're excited to get into it tomorrow. So thanks for being here. Thanks for having some fun with us. Thanks for rallying the vote. Thanks for getting everybody you know out there. Thanks for being a little bit pushy, texting your friends, doing a ballot check with your bros. Bros don't let bros not vote. So text your bros, text your friends, text your mom, text your family, text everybody. And let's do it, baby. Okay, so we're going over to locals, my friends. Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for the amazing super chats. Thanks for the great donos and all of your incredible support. We're coming back tomorrow. We're going to get into it again. Thank you, Mods and Meme Smiths. Thank you, Playin' Hooky. Thank you, John McGarvey. Thank you, K-Bean, for clipping for us on the day. Donut Mind Me's in the house, and we got some amazing friends here. So we are going to leave it there on the date. We're coming back tomorrow. We're going to get into it again. It's going to be Sunday. The countdown continues to election 2024. I'm excited. I hope you're excited. Tomorrow we'll be back here, and we need to see you so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful Saturday, my friends, and an amazing evening. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.